Hi, my name is John Barrett from PM Consultants, and today I'm joined with Garrett Loesch, who's the Chief Financial Officer for the Borough of Tuckerton. Thanks, Garrett.
Thanks for having me.
Well, today's topic is the annual debt statement. And many people will say, boy, you're going to do a video series on the annual debt statement? I've never even heard of it before. But the annual debt statement is actually a required document that has to be filed about a month or so after the end of our fiscal year. And ultimately, it just has, in essence, what our outstanding debt is. Not only outstanding debt, but authorized debt. Now, we as folks who have a mortgage at home for their houses, we have maybe a 20 or 30-year mortgage, and every year we're paying principal and interest back every month usually. In a municipality, it works the same way. When we have capital ordinances that are approved and authorized debt for the improvement, say making an improvement, building, roofs, or something of that nature, we get to go out and borrow money. But sometimes we might not borrow it in time for the end of the fiscal year, and that's what's called authorized but not issued. Once again, some vernacular that you're never going to bring up at a coffee party at any time soon. But ultimately, when the annual debt statement is prepared, what type of information do you have on that annual debt statement?
Well, one of the key factors is the valuation of the town.
Right.
So they look at the overall value of all the properties in the town, and we use a 3-year average.
Right, the equalized valuations
Correct.
of all the properties.
Tax assessor is very helpful in compiling that information, even though you usually already have it. We certainly look at any outstanding debt from schools.
Right.
Whether it be a regional or local, and then we look at our debts, and you calculate it up, and you have to maintain it in a percentage of your net valuation.
Right. So in the case of a municipality, they take all the outstanding debt. And let's talk a little bit that for a moment. So when we look at school debt, we report it on the annual debt statement. We also report any type of utilities. If we have a water sewer utility that we operate with the municipality, we report that there. Now, depending on the calculations for utilities that are run by a municipality, there's things called liquidating and self-liquidating. Liquidating means that revenues exceed the appropriations. Therefore, we don't have to put up a 5% down payment on a bond. If we were to do a utility improvement for, say, $1 million, we would, if it was not self-liquidating, have to put up $50,000 of our own money, which obviously would come from the ratepayers, and then that would authorize $950,000 worth of debt. In the case where we are self-liquidating, we don't have to put that 50% up, or that 5% or $50,000 up as deposit for the improvement. So that gets deducted based on a calculation. So the debt that really sticks generally to the annual debt statement is the outstanding and authorized debt for roads, buildings, other type of vehicles possibly.
Some major vehicles, garbage trucks.
Right, and those are pretty expensive these days, especially. So when we take a look at what we call net debt is as of the end of the fiscal year, we take a look at the 3-year average of the equalized valuations, and we do a simple math equation. And as long as the 3-year average is factored in, we can go up to 3.5%. Obviously, as a municipality, and do it just fine. But generally, a good municipality with a low debt structure might be hovering upon 1%, 1.5% type of situation. In the event that a municipality, in essence, has to exceed that 3.5%, in the case of, in essence, West Deptford many years ago, they had a refinery there that there was a successful tax appeal when that refinery went offline. And that probably equated to about 25% of the town's valuations, that huge plant. And the town actually had to then issue debt to basically satisfy the successful tax appeal. Now, that debt was factored into the municipality's annual debt statement, and it went over 3.5%. So the problem with that situation, which is somewhat rare, but obviously West Deptford was a victim of that, every time they want to pave a road, they want to buy a truck, they want to go out for capital bonding, they used to have to appear in front of the local finance board down in Trenton to appeal their case. And in their case, they were approved. But once again, it kind of handcuffs the municipality to doing improvements that are important to the elected leaders and to the infrastructure improvements. So when we list the annual debt statement, obviously the front page is the cover page. It summarizes all the debt reported. But when you get back to the municipal portion of the debt or even the utilities, it actually lists out all the series of bonds.
Yes, it does.
Correct. So in a case where we said that the bond was authorized and that the debt before the end of the year was not borrowed upon, we had authorization as a CFO to go out and bring that money in, but because of cash flow expectations and our cash flow planning, we might not be digging or paving that road until the next year. Why would we borrow that money now? So that's a portion of the annual debt statement. Besides the outstanding debt, as I said, it actually lists the authorized but not issued. That all gets factored into that up to 3.5%.
More complicated formulas that we have to follow in producing a document. The nuts, to me, it comes down is really that can you fit that debt into your percentage, and then ultimately that goes back to your budget because you still have to account for the future payments of the interest and principal on that debt.
Right, but one of the other things, and it was a great point you saw, is fitting in the debt. When we have a debt issuance go off the books, we fully paid the principal of that improvement or something of that nature, we use either both a combination of bond counsel and financial advisors to make sure that we have what's called conforming debt. So therefore, if we go out to purchase a new piece of equipment or something and we have to issue debt, we want to pay it back in such a way that when we look forward over the next few years, we don't have any big spikes and decreases in debt. We want to have a very conforming, kind of slow and steady wins the race. So when the financial advisor and the bond counsel go out to issue that debt, they may structure it in such a way that basically fills those voids where we have debt coming off the books. Because the last thing you want to have is a huge influx in debt service in a given year. You want to smooth it out over the life of the improvement. Now talk about the life of improvement. You go and build a road, that's probably a 20-year lifespan, right? Because you know, if you spend $1 million on the road, we can't pay it off in 1 year because you have 20 years in essence to enjoy the benefits of that, correct?
Yeah, the lifespan, the life factor on whatever you borrow certainly factors into things, and everything has different lifespans as determined by the state.
Right. And one of the things that's always fun, I mean, local municipal police departments, you might see them with big SUVs or, you know, Tahoes or something of that nature. One of the things with regard to bond law is that I can't borrow, issue debt on a vehicle because it has a useful life of 3 years. A bondable asset, in the case of a SUV, has a usually a 5-year lifespan. So that's the minimum what we can do. So if we bought, say, 5 police cars, we would only be able to borrow that over a 5-year period of time. Now, one of the things besides debt, like as our 30-year mortgages, we also would have what are called bond anticipation notes. Now, bond anticipation notes are very useful because, just like a home equity line, in the first 3 years, we're only paying interest. We're not paying any principal portion. And at that point, when we go to a local bank or a lending institution, this is by definition up to 1 year paper. I can't go out for 2 years with a bond anticipation note on a single issuance. I have to do it for a year. And when that bond anticipation note due date comes up in the following year, I have to what's called roll that note. I have to contact the bank and tell them that we're going to roll the note or go out for active sale. And after the third year, we have to start paying down a portion based on the useful life. So if it's a 5-year asset, we got to pay 1/5 in principal at that point and start paying it down. So bond anticipation notes are great because they're usually, because they're 1 year paper, their interest rate's a lot lower than getting your money tied up for 30, 20, 30 years. So they're very effective. And if we get any type of grant funding for a said improvement, once we get that grant money in, we can then pay off the bond anticipation note that's outstanding, which is great.
Yep.
We love
It
DOT
works.
money, don't we?
We do.
We do.
And of course, if there's any, once you file your annual debt statements, if you do have a reason to bond out, to do a bond ordinance to purchase, say, that garbage truck, And it's after that statement's done, you do a supplemental debt statement. And now it's the same stuff, but we're adding in the new ordinance and the new amounts to recalculate.
Yeah, that's a
And the
great
state
point.
requires that. And you have to do that for every time you want to borrow something.
Yeah, that's awesome, great, because you know what, the fact is, after we file the annual debt statement, to your point, every time that we do a capital ordinance where we're authorizing the issuance of debt, we have to do what Garrett said, issue a supplemental debt statement where we take the balances from the annual debt statement, we record during that period of time, maybe we made a principal payment, maybe it was another ordinance that we approved in the course of the year, but once again, that's also something that works hand in hand, so that at any point in time, we take the annual debt statement, we take the supplemental debt statements, and then we close out the year knowing exactly what's authorized and issued or unissued at that point.
Correct.
So that's great. Awesome. Well, Garrett, thank you for the viewers for sharing a little insight on the annual debt statement. Not a big popular topic, but now you are more informed about what goes on at a local municipality. And thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.